in cyberspace. No one is free until we are all free. Self-sovereign, self-sovereign. Privacy is not secrecy. It is a fundamental right. Your life is as private as you want it to be. Second enlightenment. Second enlightenment. Declaring independence from this dying order. Liberty, security, privacy. We will stop only when anybody, anywhere can experience it. No one is an island. We are all pieces of the man. Self-sovereign in cyberspace. No one is free until we are all free. Self-sovereign, virtual territories. Privacy preserving, politically neutral. Borderless, public institution, voluntary consent, resilient parallel societies, maximize the costs of surveillance, minimize the costs of exit. Trust.
Hello, everyone.
Corruption, resistance,
Welcome
undeserved citizen.
to a very special stream today. I will bring everyone on board in just a moment. But before I do that, I would be remiss if I did not remind you Parallel Society is rapidly approaching. Lisbon, March 6th and 7th. 2 days. Day one, a technical unconference. Day 2, a music festival that will go deep into the night and likely into the next day. Get your tickets at PS, that is Parallel Society, ps.logos.co. Do not delay. There are too many incredible music acts to name. There are too many incredible technical partners to name. ps.logos.co, Lisbon, March 6th and 7th. I'll see you there. Now, without further ado, I bring on the rest of the crew. Brace yourselves, everyone. Well, that's me, and that's Guru, and that's Ochi, and that's Cindy, and this is our crew for the day. Guru, can you fill us in on what is happening on the program today?
Hello, everyone. It's been a while since I got into a logo stream, so I'm super excited. A lot of movement within logos in terms of what we were building and what we are building currently. So, yeah, I get to do a presentation in one of the segments today, but we also have Web3 clubs with us, have two of the contributors from Web3 Club with us. I would give them the stage to share more about what they are building with Web3 clubs and about their previous experiences with Logos. I'm pretty sure that we've had engagements in the past, but I would like to learn more about them. So yeah, uh, welcome, and the stage is yours.
You can hear me?
Yep.
I'm actually wearing the Web3 Club's hoodie. This was not by design. It was just a cold day. So I guess it works. Right next to the big Logos logo on the top right. Yeah, so my name is Ocheng, one of the founders at Web3 Clubs, a very large builder and founder community in the Web3 space here in East Africa, strongest in Kenya. So yeah, so Web3 Club started off as a mission to develop the local capacity of Web3 builders in Kenya. We got into the Web3 space through trading and speculation on Bitcoin and Ethereum, as most of us did, and then quickly realized that that's a very toxic space, not so sustainable and not so fulfilling. So we decided to go back to what we used to do best, which was just building stuff. Most of us are freelancers, building for clients and, just building startups and all that. So we tried to see how we can do that on chain, and we discovered there wasn't much at the time in terms of a community of builders. And so we took it upon ourselves to then, build that community. And that was in 2022. And now, 4 years later, we have a massive community. We've done several cohorts. I'm trying guys to build on chain, using on different chains, using different languages like Rust and Solidity. And the community is very vibrant actually. People are building on different chains. There's many startups. Some people are doing open source contributions on different protocols. Cindy herself on this call has been doing a lot of that kind of work actually. So yeah, so happy to be here. Logos, we met Logos last year at Zanzalu. I met Vaslav and his team. A very noble mission that Logos is doing, and we're actually running the Nairobi chapter as Web3 clubs. And so yeah, so very, very happy partners of Logos as Web3 clubs.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think Zanzalu was a very good initiative through the circles, and Vaslav did share a lot about it earlier with me. So, yeah, diving into the call, we have two main segments. We have a presentation segment that I'll be doing, just to give you a quick overview about what Logos is and how Logos evolved from various other technologies that we were building previously, like Logos, Codex. I'm sure you guys heard about them previously, but yeah, we've kind of rebranded and focused things over into Logos to make it a bit more streamlined. And yeah, I'll be sharing about it with a presentation, and then following that we'll have Vaslav will be giving us some spicy technical demonstrations with whatever he's been working on over the last couple of weeks. I also heard he's been vibe coding a lot with his cloud boats. So yeah, we'll be I'm hoping we get to hear that on the stream. And yeah, following that, we will also be happy to answer questions from the community. Feel free to post the questions on the comments on YouTube or on X, wherever you're listening this from. So yeah, I can get started with the presentation now.
Let's do it. Yeah, as Guru just mentioned, folks, whether you're watching on YouTube or X, the chat works. We can see it. Thank you for using it. If you have questions about what you are about to see, please submit them. And otherwise, Guru, if you are ready, you can share your screen and we will boldly fly into the future.
Perfect. There we go. So yeah, I'm Guru, and I am the DevRel for you at Logos. And in today's presentation, we'll be looking at all of these topics pretty much on a high level. We won't be diving deep into things, but I'm happy to answer questions after the presentation if you want to learn more about a specific item in a deeper level. But yeah, I will be starting with my own personal take about today's Web3 ecosystem, especially the Ethereum side of the Web3 ecosystem. And then we will be following it up with the Ethereum's forgotten trilogy, or the history from Ethereum white paper. And we'll be looking at some technologies which make Ethereum a technology stack rather than just a blockchain. And following that, we'll also be looking at the anatomy of exposure. We'll be looking at different ways in which your privacy is being compromised in today's browser-heavy Web3 ecosystem. And we will be diving into Logos after that, and how we are intending to solve this problem that exists in the Web3 ecosystem. And finally, we'll also be looking at some real world use cases which involve Railgun, which is one of uh, the prominent projects that have been using Logos messaging for a long time. So yeah, that's going to be a final case study in the end. And after that, we'll have Vaslav's session, as I mentioned before. But yeah, uh, going ahead, blockchains promise decentralization, but the path users take to reach them is anything but centralized. And why do I say this? Because we decentralize the chain, but not the technology stack. And in 2014, Ethereum was far more beyond just a blockchain. Ethereum was just a part of a trilogy, and they were complementary technologies like Swarm for storage and Whisper for dynamic communications. And all of this together was proposed to be the solution for building a decentralized application. And there was also a decentralized browser component, which would replace the current centralized browsers that rely on HTTPS or any centralized protocol. But then this is how the Ethereum stack was envisioned back in 2014. And looking at the current day, Whisper died, Swarm struggled, and infrastructure eventually got centralized. And this is a clip from Vitalik's blog posts from 2023. And this is the blog post which kind of made the word cypherpunk popular, because not many people in the ecosystem that talk about the word cypherpunk were talking about it back in the time. But the whole cloud kind of followed up after this article went live. But then the biggest highlight that I wanted to give out is that Vitalik himself mentions Whisper continues to exist as Waku, and then is also being used in projects like Status, which is a decentralized messenger that can replace something like Discord in your uh, everyday life. And yeah, there's also other technologies like IPFS or Codex, like used to call it previously, that is going to serve the decentralized storage market. So yeah, this is how the current state of the complementary technologies looks like. And we also rebranded Waku and Codex into Logos messaging and Logos storage, which I'll be talking about in the next couple of slides. But yeah, people kind of made the whole cloud and focus towards blockchain and kind of ignored Whisper and Swarm, which are also essential for building a decentralized application as a developer. And looking at the guilty pleasures that kind of made us do this, we wanted higher speed, we wanted speculation, just like it was mentioned earlier. People love speculation, and also for the ease of UX and ease of development and developer experience, we've compromised on things like sovereignty, privacy, and resilience, which are probably the three main pillars behind whatever we are building today. And end of the day, the way I look at this personally is that we reinvented Web 2 without privacy, but on a blockchain. So we just have a blockchain part, but it's still Web 2 without privacy, which is even worse. Uh, so yeah, going ahead, now comes the part where I'll be talking about the ways in which your privacy is being compromised when you use a technology stack that is centralized. So looking at the anatomy of exposure, the application level privacy solves just around 20% of exposure. 80% of the leaks happen below the application layer, which is in the network and the protocol layer itself. And we have different stages of exposure identified, and there are at least 9 stages based on uh, what my colleague Corey has mentioned in this particular blog article. But yeah, you can find more about this particular research over here in this QR code. But on a high level, we have exposure that can happen in messaging platforms when you communicate with someone who you wish to send funds to, or it can happen in wallet RPC calls, ISP calls, mempool observers, block builders, analytics firms, or even the front end infrastructure, which is browser heavy, as I mentioned before. And categorizing this, we have two main distinct categories. The first one is the user choice failures, which mostly revolves around using centralized RPCs. Uh, Most of the RPCs that are being used in the Ethereum ecosystem right now are centralized. Even if they are decentralized as a technology, they are still operationally centralized in some way. And they probably are already sharing this for analytical firms and exchanges. But I'm not going to be surprised if they are sharing this with regulatory bodies, because they already have access to your data and about the speculative market. And there's also other user choice failures, which include reusing addresses and checking block explorers. There's also a lot of other infrastructure failures, which involve things like gossip sub protocol de-anonymization, builder centralization, browser supply chain attacks, chain analytics, etc. And one of the examples for a browser supply chain attack is the Bybit hack itself. And there's multiple other hacks that happened in the last year or so. And the browser is the biggest attack surface, like I mentioned before. Yeah, in 2025 alone, we've had a lot of hacks happen in our ecosystem. The most prominent one being the Bybit hack, which was because of a compromised front end, which was running a safe wallet. And there's also Trust Wallet supply chain hack, which got about 8.5 million US dollars drained, and Ledger Connect Kit hack, which affected more than 100 apps in the Ethereum ecosystem. So The way I look at this is that smart contracts weren't broken, but the web stack was. And RPC providers know a lot more than you think they know. For example, your IP address, your wallet, your balances and intent for creating a transaction. And RPC providers can simply sell this data to regulatory bodies or pretty much anyone who can make use of the data. And another interesting fact is that the top two block builders control more than 80% of the Ethereum blocks as per 2025, which is also surprising for a decentralized ecosystem. So, the way I look at this is that decentralized settlement is currently possible in the Web3 ecosystem, but the visibility is still centralized, which is definitely a concern for anyone who values privacy. And the solution that we look for is not just a private blockchain, but a privacy preserving tech stack built on sovereign infrastructure. And that's exactly what we are building at Logos. It's not just a blockchain, but a whole technology stack that is available for you to build decentralized and privacy preserving applications. Uh, Another analogy for this is shifting from the mainframe computers era into a personal computer era where this all the compute and access control concentrated towards a centralized computer, and all the uh, personal computers or the edge nodes are just depending on the access controls drawn by the centralized computer. So we are kind of bringing the personal computer era uh, from the mainframe era. That's how we look at it. And browser based web3 is bringing you back to pseudo decentralization. You think it's decentralized, but it's not really decentralized. And you can also look at it as from renting a house to owning it, because you can't build a sovereign system on rented infrastructure. And when I say rented infrastructure, this is exactly what RPCs do for you. You use an RPC to get connected to a full node, which will be a rented infrastructure for you to interact with any blockchain. And we are completely changing how uh, users interact with the blockchain by removing the RPC layer out of this. And the best part is some of the most resilient privacy networks that were built pre Web3 era already solved this. Uh, Tor solved this, this torrent which solved this problem. And the way they solve this is by looking at local first approaches. And that's exactly why we have something called Logo Score, which is your local workbench that integrates all these three things, including logo storage, logos messaging, and logos blockchain, which can also be topped up with various other user modules in the later stage. But yeah, we are starting with the most essential parts, which is storage, messaging, and blockchain. And logo score can be integrated into any local application or a desktop application that you want to build. Or you can also use the Logos app, which is going to be a client implementation of Logo Score. And you can pretty much think of Logos app to be the browser or the D browser, which was mentioned earlier in the 2014 Ethereum tech stack slide. So this is going to be the decentralized way of accessing front ends rather than using a browser which communicates with front ends that are hosted on a cloud infrastructure. And beneath this, we do have our technology, and technology built on years of research, which is backed by RFPs that we have for each of these protocols. And you can find these RFPs, they're open source, and we'll also share links to these RFPs later in the presentation. But yeah, moving ahead, the logo storage component includes a content address storage network. All of the data that you upload into logo storage is going to be identified by a CID, which is unique to the file. And the redundancy within the network is also verifiable. And we make sure that we provide high durability and uptime for your files. And the novelty of logo storage is that we have private retrievals, which include encrypted queries that you can make, and no centralized gatekeeper can find out what a particular node is querying. And this can easily replace storage heavy components, which include AWS S3 buckets, IPFS gateways that run on centralized servers, Rweave nodes, or any centralized content delivery network. And moving ahead to Logos messaging, we have Logos messaging already integrated into a lot of projects that are production ready and are quite prominent in the ecosystem. Logos messaging was previously called Vaku, and I know a lot of people know it by the name Vaku. And yeah, we provide sender receiver unlinkability. Uh, sender receiver unlinkability for anonymity without uh, having to add any add-ons into the network. And there's also privacy preserving DOS protection integrated within the technology called RLN. RLN stands for rate limiting nullifiers, and this is a technology that can implement rate limiting without having to uh, think about identities. This can provide network wide rate limiting without requiring a particular static identifier. And RLN is a part of Ethereum Foundation's PSC research team, and Vaku is one of the earliest projects to dogfood it. And now with Logos messaging, I think we are a lot more stronger in that note. And l- s- Logos messaging is also expected to work on resource constricted devices, which will include mobile phones, and this can easily replace applications like Discord or Telegram servers. You can build applications like Discord or Telegram servers with Logos messaging, and also other use cases include API gateways and centralized coordination tools. Finally, the Logos blockchain component. Just on a high level, there's three main highlights that I wanted to give, because the first question that people ask to us is why another L1? Because Logos blockchain is a layer one network, and it's not a layer two built on top of Ethereum. But then uh, the reason why we wanted to build another blockchain is to make sure that privacy primitives are designed from ground up and not an add-on into a network which is transparent by default. So all the programs in the Logos blockchain hold no internal state. All persisted data is stored in accounts and is passed explicitly into each execution. That means the persistent data is not stored on chain. And the other point is that there are integrated privacy zones within the decentralized execution. We have a private zone and a public zone, and there's also uh, a repository which can kind of help you kickstart it with Logos blockchain. And Vaslav will be showing you a quick demo for the Logos blockchain part, followed up with this presentation. But yeah, we intend to replace traditional data availability networks and also fix the loss composability across layer ones and layer twos. And surprisingly enough, Vitalik himself has been taking a dig on L2s over the last couple of weeks, which was quite interesting with the number of L2s that popped up into the space in the last couple of years. And finally, our developer experience offering is called Logos Core, and this is a native workbench that can kind of make a developer accessible to storage, messaging, and blockchain, which are very important for building most of the use cases that are decentralized and privacy preserving. And there's no RPCs or middlemen. You can simply integrate Logos Core into your application layer, and then this is going to make sure that the communication happens directly to each of these components and not to a centralized RPC, like I mentioned before. And this way we avoid all centralized gatekeepers, and the application user interface itself runs locally on a user's device, so there's no need for hosting your application on the cloud or any centralized infrastructure. So yeah, finally, Ethereum solved trust in computation, but the next decade should solve trust in everything around it. And the vision was not just a chain, but an internet that users could trust end to end. We've had projects already implement logos messaging as Waku previously, and some of the most prominent ones are here. Railgun was built with logos messaging. Portrait is one of my favorite projects that is also built with Waku, and Safe also has an interesting use case where they implement Waku, which is now logos messaging. And finally, the Graph was also using logos messaging at some point for decentralizing their indexers, which is another common use case for logos messaging. And I also have a small diagram that I kind of drafted for explaining Railgun's case study on how they leverage logos messaging network. Feel free to screenshot this. I'm happy to answer any questions. But then, on a high level, uh, Bob, who wants to send money to someone in a private manner, can do this by using Railgun, by shielding the assets into Railway Wallet, and then Railway Wallet listens for incoming broadcaster quotes, fee quotes from Vaku, from the broadcasters, and then this will eventually lead to a consensus, and then the user, which is Bob, can generate a local private transaction along with the client side ZK proof, which is then communicated to the broadcaster by using Logos messaging network. And then finally, when the compliance checks and validation is completed, this is being broadcasted into the blockchain. This is a very high level uh, look at how Railgun works. I just wanted to focus more on the Logos messaging part. But yeah, that's pretty much how Railgun leverages Waku for communications between a user and their broadcaster nodes. And we also have a technology called RLN, which was uh, already implemented into Logos messaging back when it was Waku. And this is a quick uh, diagram that I spinned up for it. I used the same presentation last week in ETH London, which was like a bit more ZK focused. So I just wanted to kind of add the images in here so that could be interesting for a couple of people who are interested to know more about the ZK use cases that we have in Logos messaging and also in other parts of Logos. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me. We also have Logos circles that are happening all around the world. Logos circles are local communities which solve privacy related winnable issues. There's probably a logo circle around you. I can see one over here in the eastern coast of Africa. So I'm not sure if it's not Kenya, I believe, or I might be wrong, but then I think Kenya is somewhere here. But then, yeah, there's probably a logo circle around you. If you're listening from other parts of the world, you can check more about the logo circles on the logos website. So make sure to go check it. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me for today. And I would let Vaslav to take the stage after this. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
I saw two in the chat. Thank you for using the chat, everyone. There are, let's see, the first one from Trial and Error asking, so Logos is totally different than, say, HTTP. Can we enlighten them on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to give an answer, but I think Vaslav also can top it up. But then, yeah, Logos, the whole idea is to get away from HTTP or the centralized cloud providers as far as possible. And the way we do this is by focusing more on the local first apps, which is hosting the user interface on your application rather than on a rented infrastructure, which is a cloud. So yeah, you don't need to use HTTPS to interact with any of the applications that are built with Logos. be it blockchain, messaging, or storage. You can just do it without HTTPS.
Nice. And the second question I see here is I am very much familiar. This is from Emmanuel. Very much familiar with Logos messaging, though I have never really understood if there is a need to run nodes to use Logos messaging in my project.
Yeah, the way I look at this is that back when we were Waku, we had light clients, and one of our light client was JS Waku, which was pretty much builder focused. So people used to build a lot of applications with JS Waku at hackathons. And JS Waku is a browser client or a light client which connects to the nearest relay node in the network, and relay nodes are the ones who do the heavy lifting. So light clients just connect to the nearest relay node. But yeah, right now the focus shifted more on local first approach, as I mentioned before. So you definitely have to run a Logos messaging node for this, and that is coming packaged as Logos Core. So when you run Logos Core or integrate Logos Core into an application, that means you already have a Logos messaging node, Logos storage node, and Logos blockchain node running uh, into your uh, local infrastructure.
Nice. And I've landed on something I rather like yesterday, that if you can run Linux, you can run Logos. You guys can have that. All right, folks, if you have any more questions, please use the chat on X or on YouTube, wherever you're watching. And wherever you're watching, please subscribe, turn notifications on, share. And thank you. Václav, the stage is yours.
Amazing. I can confirm that everything is broken, so it's going to be a very fun demo, as per usual. First of all, I wanted to, as I usually do, disagree with Chair, because I don't think that you should need to know how to run Linux to run Logos. It should be much, much easier, and it will be much, much easier. So that's the first thing, right?
All right, we'll argue about it at the end.
Second thing, you saw my face going, looking weird directions and things like that. I'm trying to fix the demo, but I won't be able to, so I'm going to show something else. It's fine. I'm going to talk about it probably. The third thing is what Guru said about the question with HTTP. One thing to realize is that the person who asked specifically about HTTP, which is completely open. Everything is completely public and completely unprivate, because you are reaching out to someone else's computer without any encryption, and anyone on the way can see what you're doing, why you are doing that, what is the payload, and it's completely broken, right? And then the computer can censor you, can not serve your request, or serve you something else than you are asking for, and you have no control of that. And so it's not just that Logos is building local first application. The bigger, or I think more important part, is building private peer-to-peer networks. So the same way as humans communicate one-to-one, and then you broadcast stuff, and then you collect stuff from others, but you generally go one-to-one when you communicate with other people. That's how Logos networks generally work. Logos messaging is a peer-to-peer network where the peers send messages to each other, and they may relay other messages and things like that. Same for blockchain, same for storage. It's a peer-to-peer network where the big push is on privacy and censorship resistance, right? To make sure that nobody can prevent you from using it as long as you obey the rules that are set by the protocols, not by people. And nobody can sneak on you on what you are doing, to some degree. Obviously, we cannot have perfect privacy because math and technicalities and compute and whatnot, but we can have enough privacy to actually be safe from pretty powerful players. So I just wanted to paint some more picture in that space. And since I was asked to do a demo and I didn't know what to do a demo, and then Guru said blockchain. So I'm like, sure. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk about LEZ. I'm going to say what LEZ stands for, maybe. And so I'm going to show a repo. I assume you can see my repo, at least Chair can see my repo and can show it to others.
Wow.
Yes, perfect. So this is a repository, and it's called LSSA under the Logos blockchain GitHub organization. So you can go there and you can poke around. It's in Rust. So if you like Rust, this is going to be your heaven or hell. Depends. Why is it called LSSA? Because right before it was called NSSA, and right before that it was called something else, and it has not been yet renamed to LEZ. Obvious, right? No, so
That makes sense.
the name that we call it now, it's called LEZ, Logos, or LEE. I always mix these two. So one of them is Logos Execution Environment, and one of them is Logos Execution Zone. And the README says this is LEZ, Logos Execution Zone. And what that means is that it's a place where you can execute Logos programs, Logos blockchain programs. And the blockchain program is a ZK RISC-0 ZKVM compatible program compiled for RISC-0 that can be executed in this zone on this blockchain. So Logos blockchain has two layers. One is the blockchain, the kind of the L1, which runs the security of things and the scalability and validation and consensus of a lot of things. And this is more the layer 2 side, where the smart contracts, as we would call them in Ethereum space, and programs, as we would call them in LEZ and Solana space, would live. Now, there are some primitives. I don't know, Ochi, maybe you can tell us how familiar the community is with Solana versus Ethereum. Do you guys do Solana as well? I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I'd say our community is really leaning on Ethereum, but we have had several cohorts on Rust, so we do have people who are building on Rust, and so that transition might not be so bad.
Yeah. No, I'm mainly asking because I just so that I understand how deep I have to go, because I used to be a Solidity developer. I wrote all of smart contracts, and Ethereum is my home, and I was very familiar with how things work. And then my colleagues put this in front of me, the LEZ, and I'm like, what the hell? I have no idea how this works, right? So let me try to explain how this works to people that are familiar with Ethereum. I think that's fine, right? So unlike with Ethereum, where if you build a contract, it would all the code and all the data would live in a single smart contract, in a single account, in a single address. Solana and LEZ have a different data model. So there are accounts for programs and there are accounts for data, and then the programs own the accounts for data, which is different and maybe good, maybe bad, depends on what you like. From the scalability perspective, apparently it's good. So we go this way. And second reason for why we go this way, or the main reason why we go this way, is that the LSSA as acronym means Logos State Separation Architecture. And what that means is that we can have public and private state. So normally on Solana and on Ethereum, everything that you push to blockchain, it's public. Anybody can see that. Anybody can see the code, or at least the bytecode. Anybody can see the content. If they know how to call a function, a read function, they will be able to get all the content from the smart contract. Well, and they see the transactions. So what are the payloads? What are the instructions and bytes and whatnot, right? Call data. Same on Solana, with different data model. With LEZ is different from the perspective that we can have all these public transactions, and that's very straightforward. But we can also have private transactions. And then what changes is that the execution of the transaction happens locally. And what you push on chain is just a zero knowledge proof, and then later on a nullifier of kind of like, oh yeah, this proof is valid, this transaction has happened, it's been executed off chain, and now we know that the state has moved on. And so then you obviously need to move the data around off chain so that other people can do stuff with the transactions and can execute them kind of locally and confirm that the transaction is valid. And for that, I think makes sense that we have Logos messaging, because it will be very useful for these cases where for example, I'm building a multi-sig wallet, and if I need an approval from someone else, I need to send them the data of how, if it's supposed to be a private transaction, I have to send them the data of how the transaction actually can be executed, what is the input to the transaction, what is the output of the transaction, and they can execute it locally and then confirm that proof that, yes, this is a correct transaction and this is something that is supposed to happen. And so these are the differences between, well, there is much more obviously, but like the main difference is that we can have public and private transactions, and we have the kind of Solana data model with PDAs, program-derived addresses, and all these things. There was a question. Cher, if you want to put it back, I can answer it probably.
The question was
dust
about
settle.
node discovery for Logos Core. The follow-up question,
Logos
does
Core
Logos
handles-
Core handle node discovery?
So Logos Core itself is more of a, and this is really diminishing the value of Logos Core, but it's more of a glue code between various modules. And one of the modules is Logos messaging, one of them is Logos storage, and one of them is Logos blockchain, and then there is wallet and identity and capability modules and package management, all these things. And then Logos Core binds it all together and allows you to run these modules. When we talk about node discovery, we have to talk about particle protocols, because we want to discover nodes for chat. We want to discover nodes for storage. We want to discover nodes for some special capabilities that may be not obvious to humans, but may be interesting to AI agents, for example, right? And so for that, we have a special set of protocols that allow for discovering nodes. Everything happens on peer-to-peer network through DHTs, distributed hash tables, with some special attributes that allow us to discover nodes rather reliably, while still preserving privacy and while being scalable to different types of protocols and vast, large networks, basically. There have been a presentation from one of the teams that are working on this called AnonComms. I love the name. And they have made some great progress. I'm pretty sure that they will present on one of these streams. Hannah presented, right? Just recently.
I think we have
Right.
We've had Hana recently.
Monday.
We'll also certainly have him back again. We replayed the AnonComms team update. Yeah.
Yep. So in any case, it's not necessarily about Logos Core. There will be a capability discovery module, which will allow you to go to the peer-to-peer network and find the nodes that you want to connect to based on what applications and modules you are interested in or your application is interested in. And so if I go back to LEZ, there is this example folder, and there is a very simple example. And this is basically how we implement stuff for LEZ. So there is a hello world example. I'm just gonna open it. What happened? What is this? Oh, okay. So what it does is that basically it takes any sequence of bytes in the instruction and appends them to the data field, right? It doesn't do anything else. Initially, there has to be an account passed into it, uninitialized account, which you create with your wallet, and I will show you how. And that account will be claimed by the program, so it will become a data account for the program. So we have program inputs at the beginning, which is pre-states, which is all the accounts involved in operation of this program, and then we have the instruction. And the instruction here is just a string, but it can be anything. It can be any way complex structure that can then be decoded inside of the program. And then we unpack this, and then we do something we call post. We generate something called post state, right? So we basically append the bytes that we got to the bytes that were in the data, which probably is nothing at the beginning, and then eventually it's going to be growing as we call the program multiple times. And then we check whether the account that we have is uninitialized, it's a new program, and if it's new, then we claim it. If it's not new, then we just create a new structure with the data and pass it on to right. You can see that when I mentioned that it was called NSSA before, there are still reminiscent reminiscent pieces of that in the code. And there will be a lot of refactoring going on to clean that up. But basically, we then pass on the instruction data and the vectors of what was there before and what is it now, and then the RISC-0 VM will generate some proofs and actually store the data in the sequencer. And then we can interact with that in multiple ways, or we can rather do different things, right? We can authorize. So this one, basically, anyone who has access to the sequencer and calls this, it will just do stuff, right? It doesn't ask for any signing, any authorization. Now, if we care about that, we can ask for authorization, and that basically means that the account that is sending this, the wallet that is sending this, will have to have is authorized. So that will have to be signature that is verified by the executor itself. And if it's not signed, it will fail. And what we can do as well is we can store this account and we can validate, like on the first pass, basically when we do the new claim, we can store this account and say, this is the owner, this is the only person that can actually control this program, right? And so then when someone else is called, even if they are authorized, but it doesn't match, then it doesn't do anything. That's similar to like ownable in Ethereum, right? And then there is this tail call. So in Ethereum, when you wanna call another smart contract, you basically just import the interface and instantiate it with the smart contract address, and then you call the function on that smart contract address, and the Ethereum EVM, the virtual machine, takes care of that. Here it is slightly different, because basically what you do is that you execute your code as you would normally, but at the end, you can have something called chain call or tail call. And so you generate this structure, which basically says, this is a program I want to call now. And this is the instruction data, which is the similar stuff that you got passed in, but it can be obviously something completely different, because you may be calling some other program. Let's say you're calling some token program to mint new tokens based on approval of multiple people in a multisig or something like that. And then you pass in some other things like the pre-states, so the accounts that are involved in the transactions, and the PDAs are interesting thing. I can talk about it slightly more later on. And then you basically call, again, a special function that's not only writing NSA outputs or LEZ outputs, but it's also doing the chain call. So it executes this as well. And then it's all kind of one execution altogether. What is PDA? PDA is called, the acronym means program-derived addresses. And basically, it's a way for a program to create a new account. And that account can then be anything. It can be a new program. It can be a new account for data or whatever. But the key is that they are deterministically derived from some seeds. So any step in the execution chain can verify that the PDA is actually generated from a particle program, which is here the Hello World example, right? I know this is probably way too complex for this, but I just wanted to give you some brief overview. It took me a month at least to just kind of like put it in my head, and now it's there, but I'm pretty sure I'm still not getting everything. So feel free to ask questions. I will try to answer them, and if I can't, then we can do it later on again, or we can put in next time people that actually understand the code and can explain it better maybe.
That's for anyone that's watching. If you have a question, if you want to submit, I think Cindy has a question for you, Václav.
Yes. So so I have a question. So with the Logos execution zones, you've said there's public and private states. So I'm really interested to see how these states are being updated, like how the state transition works, and most importantly, with the private states, how do they actually get updated without really revealing anything? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the private state is not stored on chain. The only thing that is stored on chain is a commitment coming from the zero knowledge proof, and then the nullifier when the transaction is consumed. I'm honestly not, like, I've tried it based on a tutorial, because there is a tutorial folder, unless it moved, because things are moving all over the place. I think it moved somewhere. no, here, docs LEZ testnet tutorials. So I have tried it based on the tutorial, but I'm also slightly not completely sure I fully understand how this works. But basically my understanding right now is that, first of all the public transactions go on chain. They go into sequencer and all the data is stored there. And I think for the private transaction, no data is stored there apart from the commitment. So someone actually executed the transaction based on their knowledge of the current state of the blockchain, and the transaction is valid. And they expose the proof of the validity on chain. And when someone else who is also involved in that consumes the transaction, so they execute it as well, so that their state that is updated, they post the nullifier, and the nullifier nullifies the commitment. So now we know that the transaction was successful. The state is updated wherever it was supposed to be updated, and everybody is happy. But nobody else other than the participants know what happened there, right? So that's as far as I understand how it is. But I actually want to poke brains of the developers of LEZ to like confirm or deny that I am correct or not, because I'm not 100% sure. Right?
Yeah, just to add on to it, I think there's also a quick mention of this in the README in the LSSA repository. So there's an example about how
definitely.
creating that's how I try to understand it. I'm still kind of trying to set this up and get it running. But there's an example which covers creating and transferring tokens across states in the LSSA repository. Yeah, this one. And basically, the way I understand is that public execution runs transparently on chain and private executions run off chain and is verified with zero knowledge proofs on chain. So that's
the only thing that gets on chain in case of private execution is if it's fully private. So I'm going from a private account to a private account, only the commitment and nullifier gets on chain. If I'm going from public account to private, I can see that the public account balance, for example, changed, but I don't know where the tokens went because I don't have the data. It's not posted on chain. And vice versa as well. If I'm going from private, so unshielding, I'm going from private to public account, I don't know where the tokens came from. I know that they landed in this public account because I can watch the blockchain, right? And so and then the question is only kind of like, how does the data that needs to be moved around so that whoever needs to verify this transaction and confirm the updates is posting the data or sending the data from A to B. My understanding of this was I've worked before with Maiden, which was called Polygon Maiden. Now I think it's just Maiden. And they basically generate this note that is like the state transition description in a sense. And then whoever needs to execute it locally gets that full note and then executes it locally. I am assuming this is the same, but I've honestly not went too deep into this part. I was just going into the, like, how do we do all the interesting stuff publicly, understanding the PDAs, generation, derivation, and chain calls. Now I'm good with that, and I can go to the next step, which is the private stuff. And I'm happy to talk about it next time when I understand it properly. Okay, I promised demo, so let's do demo. So what I have here is I have a sequencer running. And how do you run sequencer? You clone the Logos blockchain LSSA repo, and you run a command that is in the README. This one very specifically enables feature standalone. So normally LEZ would post all its data, the sequencer would pull all its data into Logos blockchain. But here we are running kind of a developer setup. So we are not posting any data, it's all mocked. And it's just stored locally and it doesn't post data anywhere. So that's good for us. We are also working on something called Scaffold. You're probably familiar with Scaffold Eve. But basically we have a prototype of it in Logos-co Logos Scaffold. And so you can create new project, bootstrap new project with this, but you can also deploy the sequencer, so it's a bit easier. So that's it. so that it's a bit easier than running some cargo commands and based on README. But since I have it already here, I'm just going to run it. And so the sequencer is running, sequencer is producing blocks and awaiting me sending in some transactions. So we can do that by many different ways. Obvious one for you guys is to go to the LSSA repo, LEZ repo that is called LSSA, obviously. You can go to these examples, and then there is a program deployment. So you install wallet, you run the sequencer as I showed, and then you compile the program. It's compiling the program in Docker in a special container image. It outputs the bin file into some folder, and then you can start executing transactions. So you create a wallet account, and you can start interacting with the program. So you can run some Rust binary, pass it some arguments, and it will do stuff, right? What I want to do here is I'm building this LEZ multisig, which should allow us to do basically standard multisig operations. So I send a proposal to execute some transaction if multiple people approve it based on some predefined threshold. And so we have this program. So we want to create a multisig. We have this handle function that accepts a bunch of accounts, some create key for uniqueness, the threshold, so how many approvals do I need, and then some members of the multisig, so some addresses of some people. And then we do a bunch of checks. So we need some members, we need threshold bigger than 1, threshold must be less than members. We can have up to 10 members for the POC. And then we assert some stuff, blah, 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 blah. We create a state. So we are creating new multisig. So we generate a new state of the multisig, and we create an account. And we basically then use some PDA derivation to get that account created. And we pose that empty state. Oh, it's not empty anymore because we've put all the data in. We pose that state into LEZ. And so what we can do is we can run tests because tests are awesome. And I have a pretty good end-to-end test for this. So first of all, it would normally compile the program, which is skipped because it already happened, but it's deploying the program. And we can look into the sequencer logs, and you can see that there was one post that it picked up the transaction, but the transaction failed, not because it's broken, but because the program already exists, because I've already executed the code. And now we are creating 2 of 3 multisigs. So we pass it 3 members and say at least 2 have to approve and have so that we can have the proposal, right? Now we are proposing another transaction, which is adding a member, a 4th member. So here we can see the transactions being picked up by the sequencer and saying that the transaction is validated. All of these things are testnet ready. It's not mainnet ready. So for example, if a transaction fails like here, we don't know about it. We only know about it because the transaction was not included in a block. So those are things that still need to be figured out, the kind of user developer experience. And there are issues for these things, and the teams are working on these things. Then, since we have added 4th member, we no longer have 2 out of 3. We have 3 out of we have 2 out of 4, and we want to change threshold. So that's now for us another proposal, which we are executing and approving from some of the accounts. And this is gonna keep running basically. I think last part of the test may fail because I have not set one environment variable, which is a token binary. So the last part of the test would actually call a token program that is deployed on my sequencer, and it would mint a new token and send it to the it would mint a new token to the multisig, so that whoever are the proposers can now, whoever are the members of the multisig can now send tokens from the multisig. And you can see here that we now are voting, basically sending multiple transactions with every proposal, because we need to approve these things. So we have 2 approvals, and then the last one is executing the transaction, as standard multisig working. I'm sorry, I had a different demo planned, because I was also working on a UI for this multisig using Logos Core, and that will be a very cool demo, but some dependency changed, and as I rebuilt, validation of this form is completely broken, and it just doesn't pass data to whatever layer somewhere down below. So I cannot show. But this is a kind of my experiment of like, how can we actually visualize the multisig using Logos Core? You can see all these logs are coming from Logos Core as the modules are kind of talking to each other, and there is a little talking between them. Anyway, I definitely recommend you to go and try to analyze the Hello World program and maybe some other programs. If you don't know where to look, ping me. We have AMM, Automated Market Maker. We have Token. We have multisig now. We have atomic swaps, BOC going for atomic swaps between Ethereum and LEZ. And I think there are some others that people have been building internally, and we obviously look for people externally looking at these things, because we are very biased and very, I don't want to say lazy, but like I'm happy to be nice to our developers, but you may not be. So you may see more issues with how things work than I do, and so that's why I'm saying that it would be amazing if you could help us out and try to build something on top of that. Does it count as a demo, Chair?
I think it counts as a demo.
It broke, so it is a demo. It broke live.
Demos have all sorts of outcomes, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Well, how did you do that, Guru? That was cool. Is that a?
Oh, that's just on your.
Is that a local thing? Folks, if you are watching on YouTube or X and you have any final questions or queries, please submit them.
I believe there was one question as well.
We did. I saw something. The Logos Nairobi space. Yes, it exists, but there was something about deploying contracts, if I remember correctly.
Oh, right. Yeah. If you can deploy contract on an easy. So the testnet is not live yet. It's going to be live soon-ish. This is all running locally. There is no network that you can connect to yet. We are testing. So we're working on 2 things in parallel. One is Logos blockchain itself, the underlying layer of the consensus and of the validators, is going to start soon on a testnet, and we are targeting ordinary devices. So we've been testing Logos blockchain on Raspberry Pis, for example, so that you can just get a Raspberry Pi and you can run Logos blockchain node as a validator and help secure the network. So I think that's pretty cool. And then we will have initially a centralized sequencer for LEZ, but the team is already working on a decentralized sequencers so that people can join the sequencer pool and execute these transactions as well. Do you deploy contracts? So you deploy programs. We call them programs. And yes, you deploy them. It's different from Ethereum. Again, that's the difference between Ethereum and Solana, and then LEZ being on the side of Solana. On Ethereum, if I want a new ERC20 token, I will deploy a new contract. So I will deploy the bytecode, and I will deploy it will have all the information about what the token is about. On LEZ and Solana, you deploy a program once. So if there is a token program, that is generally one token program, unless there is something very special about some different program. And that token program will then, you will just call it to create a new token, and it will create new PDA account, new program derived account, and that derived, the PDA will kind of have that metadata about the token. So instead of deploying the program, the smart contract, many times, like on Ethereum, the program itself is deployed once, and it just by interacting with it from different wallet or with different parameters, you access different data stores basically, and then it behaves slightly differently. I hope that answers the question, because I don't. I mean, the answer to the question is yes, although it's not contracts, it's programs. My answer was slightly more comprehensive, but all good. Thanks for the questions. Trial and error. Got it. Sorry. Yeah, English is not my first language.
Just a question. So, what does a healthy Logos network look like in terms of network infrastructure, and how easy is it for? I mean, I heard you mention Raspberry Pi. Yeah, just curious about that.
Yeah, the healthy network for Logos is that it doesn't run only in very fast, very big data centers, right? The healthy network means that people can run nodes on normal laptops, normal computers, normal servers. Logos Core itself, if you think about it, it's really a desktop application. So if I switch to this, this is running Logos Core, right? And right now it's just running that multi-sig module, but it could also run the messaging module and the blockchain module, and the storage module. And so it has to run. It's a desktop application. It has to run on a normal computer, so that you can interact with it and it can still be useful to you. And you should not need like a massive bandwidth to communicate with others or to interact with other nodes in the network, let's say, right? What those, for example, for Logos messaging, we had an analysis a couple of years ago where our goal was to get the bandwidth of the shard on the network under 10 megabits. Yeah, 10 megabits per second, I think, so that it's specifically useful in not only like super well-connected areas, right? And so that's kind of the goal. There are trade-offs because there is a lot of ZK moving around, so some compute is needed, but all these things are moving forward. They are getting more efficient. So hopefully it all works well, and we can have normal people running Logos stuff on normal computers. Right now, it seems like we are on the right path. We'll see when we launch the testnet, when we get more applications built, and when people actually start running these, and see how it works.
Another question. So, would a typical Android phone, how much of the Logos infra would be able to run on like a phone, on an Android phone?
I don't think we have ever, or we have yet tried to like compile Logos Core for Android. At least I haven't heard that. But if you think about it from the perspective of like historical precedent, Status Messenger is built on top of Logos messaging, and it's using Logos messaging to distribute messages across the devices, right? So if you send me a message on Status Messenger, the message will travel over Waku or Logos messaging network. And so that works fine on mobile phones, right? I use it. I even talked to my AI agent over Status. We have demoed it on one of the live streams. It has some caveats. You have to use some light protocols. You cannot be part of the main relay network, so you're sacrificing a bit of privacy for a bit of bandwidth saving and things like that. So there are always trade-offs, but Android, like a normal Android phones, are definitely our target for Logos Core and for Logos apps. We will see what the requirements will be when we get to actually cross-compiling for Android, because we have not. I think we have not tried that yet, as far as I know. I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't think that there was a. I think currently the target is desktop, to make sure that everything works very smoothly and everything is amazing, looks great, doesn't break at all, and everybody wants to use it, right? And then we can go to other platforms.
I have a million questions. I'm sure Cindy has some, so I'll let her go.
Yeah, please. So I have a question, right? When you were showing us the demo and you were showing us how the sequencer was running, I was curious. So does it currently process transactions sequentially, or does it process in parallel? I'm asking because centralized sequencers have actually been a bottleneck for some of the L2s for a while. So I would just like to know. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as I understand, LEZ should be able to parallelize some of the processing of the transactions, as long as that's the benefit of having the state separation from program and the data, because as long as you are not touching the same data accounts, you should be able to parallelize the execution. Because that's the problem with Ethereum, right? If we both transfer the same token, if we both interact with the same smart contract, it has to be all sequential, because also the smart contract probably calls something else and things like that. Here, with the data structures being separate from the program, we can interact with the same program, but maybe we are touching different data structures depending on what or data accounts depending on what we are doing. So that should allow for parallel processing, and then also with decentralized sequencers or decentralized sequencing, we should be able to have that. That was always the goal. What is the current state of that? I am not 100% sure. Maybe if you look through the issues on the GitHub, you will be able to find it. And what I would like everyone also to point to look to you specifically, because you have good questions. And so there is this website called roadmap.logos.co. And if you want to go anywhere like blockchain roadmap, and then maybe there is something about decentralized sequencing, and then basically you can read about what's the goal, estimated delivery time, and how it should work, things like that. So everything about Logos, like that's one of our key kind of focus areas, is everything is public, from roadmap, strategy, to project management, to all the code, right? So I don't have answers, but roadmap will probably have answers, or it will point you to repos where to ask the questions and then get the answers, or just go to Discord or wherever we hang out, which Chair will probably share at the end anyway.
Okay.
The best place people can go now, and there are many places that of course you can go, but logos.co/take action, as you see scrolling endlessly across the bottom of your screen, is the first place you should go. Sign up to be notified first whenever there is anything to be notified of, including but not limited to testnet, the availability and progress of certain protocols, events, etc. The roadmap, as Václav is demonstrating here or sharing here, is a very good location, especially if you are interested in a specific module, what's going on with it, or the progress. All of the milestones for each of the components are defined in the roadmap. All of the links to where the code lives in GitHub are in the roadmap. So if you are technically minded and want more specific and granular answers to really everything that's happening, the roadmap.logos.co. Václav is looking at the, I think, most recently generated weekly update highlights page. So you can see for the week how many teams have reported, how many pull requests were created, etc., and all of the highlights that have been isolated, or at least like highlighted by each team. So that's a great place to start. That's in the reports section of the roadmap, and that will bring you right to that'll take you to the ladder that will help you ascend into the paradigm of Logos Tech. So logos.co/take action, roadmap.logos.co. We have forums at forum.logos.co. There is a research section at research.logos.co. forum.research.logos.co. And wait for it, there's a research forum at forum.research.logos.co. And about 1 million more endpoints that I'm not going to mention, but what ties it all together is, you guessed it, logos.co. If you are watching now, you're in the right place. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, turn notifications on. If you're on X, please like, share, subscribe, turn notifications on. Go to logos.co/take action, sign up for notifications there. That is the best way for you to stay abreast of everything going on. And again, if you are technically minded, roadmap.logos.co.
Yeah, I just have one last question. So how is Logos thinking about I guess, because definitely you're gonna look for builders and have guys building stuff on Logos. And so how are you looking at, I guess, interoperability, I'd say? I guess working with other chains, incentivizing even nodes. I guess, guys, I'm hosting Logos nodes. Like what's the general strategy around bridging and kind of bringing our builders products and even liquidity, I guess, on Logos?
I don't think we have good answers for that, specifically because it's pretty early. Like, we have not launched testnet, right? So like, it's hard to talk about incentivization and bringing liquidity on and things like that. We don't have a token. We don't have a token design, right? At least not as far as I know. Maybe someone has it in their head, but I have no clue about that. So from the chair wants to speak.
Oh, you triggered me. I would say stay tuned. Stay tuned for that specifically.
I wanted to say basically a few things, right? So you're part of that. Logos is kind of helping people to run little circles meetups around the world, right? So people looking for winnable issues, people looking for changing something locally, doing some social good for themselves, improving their lives, right? And so our goal as Logos technical people, Logos engineers, is to enable that. So we hope that from circles there will be applications that will benefit from running on top of Logos ecosystem, right? Which first of all brings people, it brings the application, it brings the technical maturity, because we will have to make it run well. So that's one part of the story. Another part of the story is that we are looking into something called RFPs, basically incentivizing people to build Logos applications, build improvements into things. And then there are other plans around that as well, but I don't think that it's completely finalized. So that may be what Chair says, stay tuned for, right? So I don't want to spoil his or the stuff, but there are definitely plans. But from my personal perspective, being early in a relatively new ecosystem is very interesting, especially if it ties back to the real values that Web3 came from, right? And then also the circles could have pretty positive, pretty big impact on local communities if they are run well, if they actually do what they are supposed to do. Which, for example, I suck at this, so my circle basically died. Hope nobody is watching from those guys. And so hopefully that will bring a reasonable chunk of people coming to Logos with already understanding and already wanting to A, contribute, B, use whatever people around the circles produce.
I'd say like that,
see.
we're probably in if you think about the parallel or equivalent to Ethereum, we're somewhere in 2013. If Ethereum launched in 2014, then we are firmly in the 2013 era, some 13 years later. Spooky. So all of the opportunities that any other L1 has ever presented for people, and and certainly Ethereum, or code-wise, there's a lot of similarities between programs and the LEZ and Solana. So you think all of the services, programs, applications, opportunities, etc., that exist on those networks and chains, so too that can they exist, probably should exist, the ones that are worthy, on Logos. So wherever your mind takes you, and when hearing that, like it's all open and it's all possible, basically. And now, like this is, things are still very nascent, things are still very new. Logos has gone through a bit of a consolidation, in that all of these components and modules that we were looking at used to be separate entities that have now all come together under Logos. So some things are changing. Where the opportunity is for everyone is that you are so early. The central place, logos.co, should take you. It's the central node that takes you to whichever direction that you would like to go, be it technical, community, or otherwise. So, but yeah, to answer more specifically, like every opportunity that existed on any other L1 with similar functionality exists within Logos, with the ethics and principles that Logos is created under.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely resonate with that. Hello. Oh, are we streaming?
Yeah, I'll just stop sharing.
Sorry.
You're good.
Oh yeah. So yeah. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful thing. We were having this conversation yesterday around the L2s and what's happening, and just how the original ideas really got captured and people just went crazy, and it's just a TVL mess. Every TVL is trying to be incestuous with another TVL, and it's just, there's no real community. There's no real, no one's really building anything meaningful, to be honest. And I mean,
It's sad, isn't it?
yeah, it's really sad. And no one's, there's no real protection. So anyone trying to build anything real really is just putting themselves out there to be lynched. So yeah, so I think core values are from the beginning, and then it being this early means that I and Cindy and anyone else in our community and other circles around the world can really get their voices in, right? So for example, there's things that we see that don't make sense in the existing Web3 ecosystem, and we would be happy to share, give our contributions on that. So yeah, I think the real alpha is just being early, really, and yeah, and that's awesome.
Definitely. And also, like things are coming together very, very quickly. The first thing that people should look out for, especially if you're interested in, I see there's quite a bit of you still hanging out. If you have questions, folks in the chat, wherever you're watching, please submit it. Because things are so early, like there's a lot of opportunity, but there's a lot of self-direction required, right? There isn't, it's not the path. Even, you think about Ethereum is 12 years old, 13 years old almost. And if you were sending someone, I know where I would send someone if they were interested in developing on top of Ethereum. I would send them straight to the Scaffold ETH repo and Scaffold ETH, or speedrunethereum.com. But even those resources, I remember vividly and specifically, even as late as 2021, those resources were only just coming together. And I remember Austin Griffith giving out his calendar for anyone to book time with him so he could show, so he could demo Scaffold ETH for them. That was 2021. That was 7 years after Ethereum launched. And and I think Scaffold ETH by far it stands far and above the best resource for people that are new all the way to very technical, very experienced developers can take that same project and run with it and begin building. Because we have such a beautiful example of Scaffold ETH, we could certainly run with that example now. But think about how long it took to mature on Ethereum. Certainly, I think it should be a bit faster, given the incredible, and I can't say this enough, I cannot impress this enough, the talent, depth of the engineers, programmers, coders, developers, researchers that are contributing and have contributed to Logos since the inception way back in 2017 of Status and all the way through, which includes the Status app, which includes Nimbus execution and consensus clients, which includes all of the work that's going into now Logos, messaging, blockchain, execution, storage, etc. These are hardcore Bitcoiners, hardcore early Ethereum contributors that have been active all the way through. And look, Nimbus has something like 11% of the validator spread on Ethereum. Like, these are hardcore cypherpunks that have been working on this stuff for the last 20 years. And there is, I would put up the talent depth of Logos. Go look at there's literally hundreds of repositories. There's many GitHub organizations. The Status, just the Status organization is always number 1 or number 2 with Chainlink in the most active repos in crypto every week for the past 10 years or 8 years, let's say. So because of this, I think there's an ability to move quick, and there's a lot to get into and a lot to learn. So whatever you're most interested and curious about, there's a ton to discover and learn already, and things are coming together like a la Scaffold ETH very quickly. So again, logos.co/take action. That is the beginning of your journey, and then branch off into many directions. Certainly I'll volunteer Václav and Guru as good resources, and everyone on the ecosystem development team and beyond. So get plugged in. And if you've been through this dance before with early Ethereum or even early Solana and any L1 network that has launched, like this is another shot with original principles baked in, if that's exciting to you. Folks, I think we are winding down here. This has been a lot of fun. We've had quite a bit of viewers, both chatting and sticking around and watching. Thank you all. And again, please like, subscribe, share, turn notifications on. It behooves you. It's worth it. Any final words? Where can we find you? Any profiles that you'd like us to follow? Let's go around the room. Let's start with Ochi. Where can people find you, and what would you like people to check out? You're muted.
Yeah. Sorry. So mostly, I'm actually not that active, honestly. I think I'm following Web3 clubs is good. I'm trying to see if I can work on that. I've been told it's good for my career, so let me try and put my personal.
You want only if you are so inclined. Guru, where can people find you?
All over. On X, you can find me at Hacky Guru, on Telegram, or pretty much in all socials. But then the best place to get a quickest response is going to be the Logos Discord server. Logos Discord server is linked on logos.co. You can just scroll down to the bottom and you can find the Discord community. We have all our core contributors over there. So yeah, just give me a ping and I'm happy to answer any questions. And also we have some updates coming up for the builders in the next subsequent weeks. So make sure to register yourself in the Take Action forum as a developer and keep an eye on the inbox for the next couple of weeks, because we have more information coming out regarding RFPs, a couple of other things as well. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Super. Cindy, where could people find you?
Yeah, so on Twitter at Cindy Kamau, Cyndy, not Cindy, Cyndy, Kamau. I'm building a product called Calypso's Network. It's a safety infrastructure layer for AI agents in DeFi. So yeah, I'll be keeping posting a lot of updates in my Twitter account. But yeah, so Twitter, Telegram, Discord, it's still the same username at Cindy Kamau. Yeah, again, Cyndy. Yeah, so that you don't
Very
forget.
nice. Boom. I think bang. There we go. Now we have everyone's names up there. Václav, how about you, sir?
I followed Cindy. Good questions. Anyway, where can I find me? Mostly on GitHub or X, Twitter, whatever the name right now. And then obviously Discord, because that's where we all live right now. And also find me on Status, but you will have to ask for my contact URL. So you can't find me, but I'm there. Otherwise, you can find me at home usually. I don't go anywhere.
I'll take you up on that. I'll find you at home. I am Chair. You can find me right there. And I'm here to prop you up. But before you find me, go ahead and find Logos, logos.co/take action. Sign up, sign up, sign up. Logos.co/take action. You can hang out with me later today for the Logos weekly update stream, where we'll cover all of the technical updates across the Logos ecosystem modules. That will be in a few hours. Of course, every Tuesday and Thursday on X, our community and circles spaces hosted by Sterling. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays on X. You should follow Logos_network there for the technical leaning updates on X, Logos_devs. Are you starting to get the picture that there is a lot going on? I hope that you do. I hope that you have. One more time, logos.co/take action. I'll see you later today. I'll see you later this week. I'll see you next week at Parallel Society. And I'll see you all year long as we barrel towards Logos mainnet in 2027. It's been real. Thank you very much, folks. This was a lot of fun. I look forward to the next one. I certainly do anticipate there will be one. Until then, I bid you all a wonderful rest of your day. This is a declaration.
Where can we get the Web3 reggae? That was crazy. That was very interesting.
Yeah, I think that was just Suno, and I dropped the Logos Manifesto, which of course you can find at logos.co/manifesto. And I happen to like a 1970s Kingston dub reggae, King Tubby sort of vibe, so I put in some instructions, and we got a few good songs out of it. So I can send you those tracks, Ochi, if we
hold on. That's AI?
Yeah.
Oh god.
It sounded good though, right?
Oh man, my mind was blown. I was so excited, and then I was like, "Do you guys have an actual Jamaican guy somewhere like singing Web3 reggae?"
It's my hope. It's my hope that we can have an actual dub reggae outfit out of Jamaica playing original music. I think there will be some reggae acts at Parallel Society in Lisbon, March 6th and 7th. So perhaps if I play my cards right, I can get them to write something original. All right, folks. Thank you very much. Thank you, Web3 Clubs, Ochi, Cindy, Guru, Václav. Y'all are the best. We'll see you all very soon. Todo es mentira desde el mundo. Todo es mentira la verdad. The world is a lie. That lie is the truth. We'll see you very soon.